This is Ivy Unleashed,
a Gold Ivy production.
Well, it's good timing that you're doing this because you signed up for the Rocky Raccoon 100 Endurance Trail Run?
Worst timing.
Really?
Why?
Because now I'm like, I figured out what I'm going to do with my nutrition to still stick to what I was doing.
Oh, because...
You have to stick to a diet, but you have to train.
Correct.
Oh.
But I mean, and the time on the feet walking is obviously good when I'm going to be on my feet for 24 hours trying to move 25 times around.
100 miles. Okay, so 100 miles, how long are you just like estimating this is going to take you?
My A goal is 24 hours.
Okay.
And then B goal is just finished, and then there is no C goal.
Seagull, see me out of here.
Yeah. Get me back on a plane quick.
It's in Texas, right?
Yeah, it's 2 hours like northwest of Houston.
Okay.
It's like
In December?
February.
Oh, February, that's right.
Yep. So I have 20 weeks to train, which is not smart. If you're listening to this, don't do that ever. Because most 100-mile training plans have like a 16-week build to get to the base mileage needed to train for an actual 100. Before this Saturday, the longest I've ran in the last 2 years is 10 miles. And this Saturday I did 15. This past Saturday I did 15 and went fine. And then this weekend I have like a 12 to 15 mile run on Saturday and a 20 mile run on Sunday.
What? Do you have a coach?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mike Fishik. He lives in Toronto. He's the one that coached me for like all my crazy stuff that I did. And like, so, and I trust him 1,000%.
I feel like we follow him. I think we follow him.
You probably do. Fishik Endurance.
Yep. Yep.
He's big into high rocks racing now.
Which is what?
It's like, you run a 10K throughout it, but there's one event I'm going to butcher this. One event's skiing. There's like a wall ball thing. There's a sled push. There's a farmer's carry. There's a lunge thing. So like in between each of one of the like the strength events, you run a 1K. It's awful.
Yeah,
it's like
that doesn't sound fun.
You're like pegged at red line the whole time. But him and his wife do it together, which is kind of cool.
So I always like asking people because I feel like there is always something and everybody wants this moment that makes you register. It makes you start 75 hard. It makes you start the diet. It makes you start working out. Like what happened that you clicked register on a 100-mile trail race?
One of my friends that I met at the Origin Camp, he's lost like 120 pounds. He's from like western Minnesota, middle of nowhere, but now he lives in Tallis. And he posted it, and I was like, when are you doing that? Because that course is like known for people, like either it's a really good beginner because it's pancake flat, or if you're going to set the world record, you go there.
That's what I do with marathons. I'm like, is there just a downhill one? Which I have found a few of them.
Las Vegas.
Mountains to Beach in Ventura, California.
Okay.
And then Marquette, Michigan's pretty...
Aggressively downhill.
Yes. And Fargo's just flat.
Yeah. Grandma's is net downhill too.
Oh, really?
Like negative 12 feet. But yeah, it's flat. I think there's like 3,000 feet of gain over 100 miles, which like if you drive from here to Hinckley, I think you get like 4,500 feet of gain. So it's flat. And he's doing it. And it was just like, and I was planning on doing one in October.
Of 2023?
Yeah.
Okay.
But I don't do well when I think about things for too long. And I'm like, and so I was like, okay, I'm going to sign up. And I sent my coach, I'm like, is this doable? He goes, well, you already signed up, so it's
we're gonna make it doable.
So it's seeing somebody else is doing it that
inspires you.
Inspired you.
And because it's something, I have two things left I want to do with running, and this is one of them, and the other one's a sub 130 half marathon.
Okay.
So I'm gonna knock this out, get a huge base built, and then it'd just be like getting faster. So that's why.
It just shows though, like seeing, like making sure that you have people that you're following that inspire you or that are posting things that could influence you in a positive way. Like it's the simplest little thing. You saw something and it's going to transform you as a person.
And not doing it alone. Having a coach.
Yeah, the coach thing's huge. Jolene's going to be So Jolene's going to be my crew chief. And then one of my friends' wives from St. Louis is going to, if I need a pacer, she's going to run with me overnight.
What's a crew chief?
So she makes the call. Like if I look like I can't go, like she has the authority to pull me out of the race. Like when I get there, she's going to know what I need. So she'll like, my dad will probably end up going because that's just what he does. And then like anybody who else who comes, like Stephanie, she'll be the one who might pace me. Like Jolene will be like, okay, you're going with him. If Ray doesn't want you to go, you're still going with him.
And you're going to listen to her?
I have to. It's like our agreement.
Okay. Are you going to keep running if you shit your pants?
Well, I'll stop to poop. I had to do it.
Well, right. But like if you shit your pants,
I'll just change and go.
Okay.
He's not a weirdo like you, or you
just
keep running.
I just like to know people's hard nose.
Like if I shit myself, I would finish the loop, come back, get a garden hose, clean that shit out, put on new compressions and shorts, and be on my happy
Are you
way.
going to listen to music?
I save music for dark times, like during that. And then the stuff I did with my 50 is like I had Jolene put a voice memo on my phone, like if I needed something like to uplift me. I did the same thing with the kids. At my lowest point in the 50, when I got to this top of this mountain, it's called, the legit name of this mountain is called Mount Phlegm. You gain like 6,000 feet over a 5K.
Oh.
And my foot was like, that's when I messed up. Right before that, I messed up my foot. I was like crying every time I put my foot on the ground. And I got to the top and I finally got cell phone service. And so I'm like, I'm going to call my dad because he was my high school football coach. And he's like, how far do you have? And I was like, 4.5, 4 miles. And he's like, shut the fuck up and finish. And he hung up on me. And I was like, all right.
Okay.
We're finishing. But he knows
what you needed.
He knows exactly what I need. And he's always had that. So
Yeah.
But he was like, whoever was near him, like, don't judge what I'm about to say to Ray. Just let me.
It was him and my mom, and I could hear my mom being like, Charlie.
So obviously you're going to be preparing physically for this. You have a coach. Mentally, part of training, it's mental preparation. Yeah. But is there anything like, are these 75 hards helping you with your mental toughness? Is that why you're doing it? Or is there anything that you do that really helps you with getting mentally tough before something big like this?
The training. And I don't run in groups, so I'm always alone. And that's one thing I'll tell like clients. I'm like, if you're going to do like your first marathon, or if you're going to do your first 50K 50 miler, you got to do some of your long runs alone. I'm like, because when shit goes sideways, like in your race, that you could be running someone, but they don't care if you finish or not.
Or they could fall out and then you're like, ugh, I don't know how to do this myself.
Yeah. And I mean, that happened to me during my 50 miler. Like me and Maria, my coach's wife, we got Mike and Maria became close friends with me and Jolene through all this, but we stayed together in Squamish, and we were together for the first like 26 miles of the 50 miler. And then I lost her coming down a mountain, because it's like you lost like 6,000 feet over like 2 miles. So I was like bombing down. And I was waiting for her at an aid station, and somebody's like, oh, are you Ray? And I was like, yeah. And they're like, oh, Maria sprained her ankle. Like she told to go. And that was our thing. Like if one of us needed to just leave the other one, she finished. And it was just like, oh, if I would have banked on her being there, I would have been mentally fucked.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think going back to it's you against you. Mm-hmm. Like if you're running a race, some people want to do it with someone else. But I think when I ran my first, I was like, I'm doing this to prove that I can do it. Mm-hmm. And if you run it with someone, I feel like you're holding them back, or they're holding you back. Like it's tough to run that far with someone next to you. Like Andrea's like, I hope you know I'm not running with you. I'm like, please do not.
Well, and then we were like, ask us anything. And so many people are like, do you ever just run for fun, Andrea? Like basically hinting that I should just have ran with Brooke, that whatever. I'm like, it's an individual race. Mm-hmm. It's an individual thing. And I think if you've ever thought about signing up for something like this, maybe not 100-mile trail run, it's a little extreme, maybe a 5K, maybe, marathon, is that you're going to prove something to yourself, and it's going to unlock things in your life you've never even imagined, because you realize how capable you are. And if you can do this, you can do so many things. And I mean, it happens when you're pregnant, you carry a baby and deliver a baby. You're like, oh my gosh, like I could have died there. And then you're like a superhuman all of a sudden. And so I know you can't force people to do things they don't want to do, but how would you convince someone just try challenging your body physically to do an event?
So me and Jolene were talking about this. It's like, I think I made a conscious decision, unconscious decision, I guess, where I said this year, anything that scares me, the instant answer is yes. 100-miler, jiu-jitsu tournament in the Twin Cities, like probably the day before I have to run 40 miles, like, yes, let's do it. Okay. Smart? No. But when just find something that you're interested in. If you don't like running, don't run. Simple. Find something that you can do that's like, oh, that sounds hard, that I'll have to work for, and just try. I have a friend who's like, just try something for 10 years and see how good you get at it. Like anything, you'd be an expert.
Right. 5 years.
Yeah. It's like you just don't give up. Like you can't fail if you don't quit.
Yeah. Be too stupid to quit.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's kind of like my new thing.
Same.
So just try something. If you don't like it, don't do it again.
Yeah. I think forcing yourself to be uncomfortable, and like we keep saying, sitting in those uncomfortable feelings, knowing that they will pass, and on the other side of those feelings is the next version of you.
Yeah.
And that's ultimately who you want to become, is that better version of you. You want to evolve into a better version of you. And it takes doing something uncomfortable to see what you're capable of.
And I think journaling in the process too. I know we've talked about how you journal for like 5 minutes is key too, because it's when you hesitate to sign up for something, you can explore that. Like, what is it that I'm afraid of? What is it that's holding me back? What self-limiting beliefs do I have? And then knowing that could be the key to you overcoming them.
Yeah. And getting back to the feelings thing, I heard it from Rogan first, and now like I'm hearing it like now maybe I'm just more aware of it, but more people are talking about it. I'm like, I'm not my feelings. Like, if I don't want to go to work, I still go to work. I don't want to wake up and train these people. I still do it because like that feeling lasts like 30 seconds. And if you make judgments off of that, I think that's what screws most people. It's like, I'm sad, so I'm going to eat my feelings. Well, the next morning, are you happy about that? No. Do you even remember why you did that? No. And so I don't know, remember who he was talking to about it, but he's like, you are not your feelings.
Yeah. Well, I think there's a healthy level of acknowledging those feelings, but not attaching too much meaning to the ones you don't want, right?
They're temporary.
Right. And something I was listening to the other morning was, it was just on Spotify, and it was just this reel of motivation after motivation after motivation. And the guy's like, no one feels like waking up. No one feels like getting out of bed. Like F your feelings and just do the damn thing. Yeah. And I think there's a dance between the two, but not allowing those short-term feelings to win. Like when you do a challenge like this, you are strengthening your mind and you're showing yourself, this is what I do. And when I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. Yep. So it's like that trust with yourself too.
Yeah. And I lost that from, I would say, December of 2020 through up until probably June of this year.
You lost trust in yourself?
Oh yeah, 100%. So, and it was, I don't know why, like overcoming the injury, like they told me I wouldn't be able to do anything that I'm doing right now until a year after my surgery. And I was doing it 3 months after. But that I don't know why that didn't feel good. And I think it was like, I didn't want to say like I was beat down by like the constant bullshit that's been going on, but I think that was part of it, working from home, like being isolated, just on top of like when people got to go back to work. I was like, I'm going to sit my head in my office and talk to my Call of Duty friends when I don't have anything to do at work. And I think that, and just the how I accepted how much we were drinking was like normal. And that was a cluster bomb of starting TRT, trying to figure that out while drinking, not a good mix. And then not being able to exercise for 3 months. And then I think it's just like my sense of who I was started to get just beat down.
Well, and blurred from these
substances.
Yeah.
And in Chicago about a month ago, I started that. So that's why Jolene's 10 days ahead of me, because I was going to start 75 hard. Like the last day I was in Chicago with some buddies for a jiu-jitsu tournament. And then it was just like, I got back to work and that was a cluster F at Hinge. And then it was like, I saw her rocking it, and I was sitting there Sunday. I was still like reading, and I was just like, what the fuck? I remember saying that to myself. And
meaning what?
Just everything. Like I was hungover. I was like bloated out to here because I like ate shitty food. Like my face looked like a tick about to pop. I had so much inflammation in my body. I wasn't being a good example for the kids. And that I will fight any parent that says that it's okay to be out of shape if you're a parent. No, it's not. You have a moral responsibility to be there for your kids. Even if they turn 18, they still need you. Like, I still need my dad at, I might be 38 on Thursday. Like, it's not about you anymore. So now you deciding to have sex and have a child, you just lost all your rights to be unhealthy, in my opinion. And I'll fight anyone who wants to disagree with me.
No, I love that.
They need you.
It's important. Like when you say they need you, can you just elaborate more on that?
So yeah, I had a Facebook memory because when Knox was born, he was in the NICU. So I was single parenting at home and Jolene was single parenting at the hospital for 10 days. Not easy. I was getting a babysitter for 2 hours every day so I could go work out. And people were like, oh, you're not going to be with your wife and your son at the hospital and you're not there with your daughter. And I just went nuclear. I was like, I'm a way better husband. I'm a way better father. I'm a way better friend. I'm a 10,000 times better person, period, when I'm physically pushing myself. And I didn't know why at that point, but I know now. And I was just like, why do you care? Like what I'm doing? Would you be okay if like Sutton was watching Blue's Clues and I was drinking 6 beers? Like, I'm not spending time with her. So like when I get home, like, she would stay at daycare for 2 hours longer and I'd pick her up at 5 instead of 3. She doesn't know what's going on. Daycare's still open. And it just pissed me off to no extent. And it was legitimately because Knox's birthday was last week. And I think today was when he got out of the NICU, like 8 days, 7 days, 5 days after he was born, whatever. It felt like a year.
Yeah.
And like for me, if I'm not pushing myself physically, like I'm not there mentally. And I haven't been there mentally for my family for a year. And that pissed me off because you're not what you say, you're what you do. Right. And I wasn't doing what pisses me off about parents who are lazy. I was like the person I hated the most. And I think that's why I was having so much trouble, like getting out of the mud, is because I didn't believe I was worth getting out of the mud. And it was just, I think a culmination of things happened over like a course of like 5 days where I was just like sand drawn, done.
So you were feeling kind of like a hypocrite.
Oh,
See, there's a fine line though, because it's like you can be too hard on yourself and you can beat yourself up and then that's also not good.
But I think you know when that line is.
Yeah.
Right. Like,
but are you good at that line? Are you good at drawing that line?
I am now. I'm much better now. Just because of work I've done and things I've just heard that like I vehemently disagree with in like my heart of heart, where I'm like, that's not, no, that's not okay. Like, you need to be honest with yourself. There's a difference between being too hard and being honest with yourself. Like, if I'm being too hard on myself, that'd be like, oh, the pace of your 20-mile run you're doing isn't fast enough and you haven't ran this far since you did Twin Cities Marathon in 2019. If I'm being honest with myself, could I do this a little bit harder and still have the same training goal? If I can't, okay, I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. But like, I don't think I was hard enough on myself when, hey, like, cause I looked like we were spending $500 a month on booze, and like, that's not okay. But like, it's normal. You both have friends that do the same thing. We've all been there, and it's like, that's not okay. And I was just like, that was another thing. I'm like, line and sand drawn. Like, we're not doing this anymore. Like,
yeah.
I'm never not going to drink again, but I'm not going to have it be as much of my life that it was.
How do you feel like you keep from getting to that point? Because I feel like it's a very slippery slope of introducing it back in. Like, after 75 is hard, right? I think about like just a diet too, like to keep those habits versus going completely back to who you were. How do you stay consistent with that?
I need to have better boundaries with myself with things that I know aren't good for myself. I have a very addictive personality, and like, I've been paring back like on video games because I'm addicted to Warzone. Like, I could sit there and play Call of Duty for the whole day. Dialing back on that and just setting boundaries around it that are like, it's okay if I play 45 minutes of video games when nobody's home. Like, what am I going to do? It's okay to sit around a bonfire and have a couple beers or, half a bottle of whiskey with your buddies on a Friday night once every couple of weeks or once a month. Or what's not okay is sitting in my office playing Call of Duty because I hate myself and drinking a bottle of tequila because I don't want to deal with things. Look, now it's time to be hard on myself because that's not okay. Like neglecting my family, neglecting myself. So I think it's just building those boundaries with unhealthy behaviors. Like, okay, they're going to happen, but I'm going to dictate how they happen.
Yeah, what those boundaries are, what that fine line is between what you are okay with doing and what you're not.
Right. So like I used to be like a candidate of Copenhagen. The boundary on that is never again because I can't be like.
I think it's so important. I love that you're talking about this because everybody has their own boundaries and their own lines they need to draw. And I think it's so easy, especially someone that has like a social presence, you have a podcast, people look up to you to say, oh, you're going too hard, or why are you doing that? Why aren't you spending time with your daughter? It's like, first of all, don't judge somebody else's life. We all have a journey that we are learning our lessons in, and we do not need you telling us because that is not going to help anything. Don't tell Ray what to do. And then also, like, we have to learn for ourselves. And we're all going through things that people don't understand. And so I just think, especially when it comes to food, I feel like people get so judgmental because we all struggle so much with it, right? Like I struggle with sugar so bad. And I am the same way. Like if there's a bag of gummy bears in my house, gone. Like tub of ice cream, gone. Like
I don't do moderation.
Right. Yeah. Like we don't even, we hardly
cowards.
keep it because I will eat it all. Yep. And so I try not to judge myself, but I know myself. And so you could say I should probably have more self-control, but I know I don't. And it's not really something I want to focus on. So I just remove it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there's a part of my sick, twisted brain. Like I still sit in that office with that bourbon every day and stare at it. But it doesn't bother me, but it's there. Like most people be like, well, don't you want to? I'm like, why? It's not pouring itself in a glass and then pouring it down my throat.
You're showing yourself that you are in control.
And I wasn't, being completely honest. Like I would say there was a solid 3 months where it was a pile of shit. Parent, husband, friend, business owner, employee.
Does your circle know that? Like, do you talk about it, or you just like go in isolation?
Knows, because like I could be in that death's door hangover and nobody would know. And like she'll say I'm being too hard on myself. Like Christina P talked about that. Like, and that's my problem as a parent is like I'm always, is that the right thing to do? Was that the right thing to do? And I'm not like, sometimes I don't enjoy being a parent because I'm always second guessing what I'm doing. But with how good Sutton's doing in kindergarten, like I think we're probably doing okay.
It's tough because you don't know. And we had on Terry Cole, and I was like, she's a psychotherapist. I'm like, how do I not have my kids end up in your chair, in your office? And she was like, well, she gave some tips, but she was like, one human being cannot meet another human being's emotional needs. You just can't. Like you can do your best and here's some tips. But like, because I get in that cycle too, where you could always do better. But then it's also that line of being too hard on yourself. And then your kids have this really overly critical parent.
Yeah,
it's tough.
Kids are weird. It's just weird being a parent. Like I'm responsible for like everything that happens to you. It's just weird to think about.
Which is why you need to make sure you're mentally okay. And as parents, you have to fill up your cup because how can you be there for your kids if you're not even there for yourself?
Yeah, I need to empty the cup though before I try to fill it up. But yeah, I think, and the other thing too is like Ed Milet has such an impact on my life. Like the thing I talked to you about, like I'm almost done with The Power of One More, the book. I've been listening to his podcast more. Like I really relate to kind of him, not like his upbringing because mine wasn't that chaotic, but just like his message of like, it's okay. So.
And he also idolizes his dad, and you do, and he can be pretty extreme, very masculine guy. I could see that. I could see how you can relate to him.
I heard him speak live. I've met him and like at First Form stuff, and like he's a good dude too. So
he's our idol. Well, he's mine, and hers is Tony Robbins.
Powerhouse of men, which you are doing now. You have a podcast. Yeah. So let's talk about that.
Yeah.
How did that start? What inspired?
Both of you.
Oh, really?
Well, yeah, because you needled me on it 2 years ago. And then I've been on a couple. I was like on the Power of something. And it was about like fitness stuff. And then I've been on the Pohada podcast, but it's a jiu-jitsu thing. We just did like a thing on recovery and how like it can be a super strength. And then like my job is talking to people. And I enjoy talking to people. And people are like, oh, is it going to be just fitness stuff? And I'm like, I don't want it to be. Me and my friend Chris talked about wine for 30 minutes on there. And that was honestly, and we talk every day because we work out together. And I didn't know he had that depth of knowledge. Like I would consider him like one of my best friends now. And I knew he was big into wine because he's got like a walk-in cellar like this in his 3-bedroom house. But just like learning different unique things about people, I like that, hearing different perspectives. And that's the other thing too that's changed is like I kind of like having more people around me that I disagree with than I agree with, which can be hard to find because you don't really gravitate towards each other. But that's kind of been it. It's like just talking to different people. Like I'm having a chiropractor on this week who I don't know a lot about him. I kind of know what he does. He's like an expert in treating Lyme disease, like holistically.
Oh, cool.
Sweet.
So, but like, I probably don't agree with him, like on some of his things. And I know this because we've had conversations and it's like, but I want to learn.
Mm-hmm. I love that. Well, I think, people hesitate to start something like that because it's like, oh, so many people have done it, but it's like, there's only one unique you. Mm-hmm. And you are a very unique person. And I totally agree that you can sit with people that disagree because you and I disagree on some things. And I never felt uncomfortable being a guest on your podcast. I feel like you're, like I said, a lifelong learner, and you're very smart, and the depth of your knowledge goes on in all different directions. So I never think you're going to run out of anything to say. And the fact that and Brooke and I talk about this too, like we're always going to be growing and struggling as human beings in something, and people need to hear the truth about that because it's what connects you and shows you that we're all human and struggling with something, and then how you get out of it. And people like us that hold ourselves to standards, like it's important that you show people that not only are you struggling, but you're doing something about it. And I think that's powerful.